us women and men don't really know a lot about the other sex. We think we do, but we really only know how to deal with them from our own perspective, right? The things that we know about them, it's how we as a man or woman interact with them rather than who they actually are.
It is a misunderstanding. This is why I think poorly of men. But if I understand men better, then I can actually admire and respect things about men and see how they're actually wonderful people. The same thing is like the appreciation that men need to have for women and for femininity. This is the counterpart, is it teaches women to have an appreciation for men and what they do.
But the Queen's Code, I feel like, is more well received because you feel like you're a part of the conversation, but you're like a fly on the wall. You're in a group of women acknowledging their faults and where they went wrong. And so you can feel like safe in that space to do that.
Yeah. But should we get into the topic then? Okay. So the book that we're talking about today is The Queen's Code. That is by Allison Stewart.
Armstrong.
Why do I want to say Stewart?
Allison Armstrong.
It's such a simple. What is it called when it sounds?
The AA.
I forgot what you call that thing, but it's so Allison Armstrong. I don't even know who Allison Stewart is.
She actually has some popular TikTok videos if you're on TikTok talking about men. That's where we first saw her.
Yeah.
I feel like we saw one of her videos on TikTok and then you found out she wrote a book and then here we are. And she again has that, like I mentioned in the last episode, that wisdom from an older woman who has realized how to properly handle situations and how to properly understand men and life in general. And so I feel like she is very easy to listen to. And she explains things very well, and it's not triggering. It's not, abrasive. It's not, shocking. It's not for drama. It's for knowledge and understanding and empathy, like we talked about as well too, like true empathy, like trying to figure out where someone's coming from, specifically men.
Yeah. Because
I feel like both us women and men don't really know a lot about the other sex. We think we do.
Right.
But we really only know how to deal with them from our own perspective, right? The things that we know about them, it's how we as a man or woman interact with them rather than who they actually are. And this book does a good job of showing how men really are, but also in a way that women will understand. It's not, like the way of the superior man where it's more abrasive, like how men would listen to it. This book was written in a way that makes it easy for women to understand and want to learn more about men in a way that shows the positive or the good in men. Whereas a lot of times women are just fed the bad in men, just like men these days are fed the bad in women.
Right.
So it was a nice perspective to see women talking about men in that way. And even I have talked to our daughter about some of the things that I learned in this book and helping her understand, because it's really majority of misunderstanding.
Yeah, I agree. It is,
you talked about just now is, men and women are well, I've done this. So I did all the things. Right. Why is this not working out still? And it's a misunderstanding. It's not truly understanding what the other person wants or how they even think or operate. So
and the book is good. It's written in. She's written a few books about understanding men and one about understanding women. And this is actually, it's written in a story format, which is really cool. And it's actually the second book in the story, but it's the one you should start with. It's her most popular one too, I think. The first one, I read that one as well, and it's good. It's more about the development of man. In fact, she has a book called The Amazing Development of Men, I think. And
I don't know, I haven't read that one.
It's about the stages of man, which is good to know. But as far as being in a relationship with a man, this is the book, The Queen's Code. Absolutely, I think it's a book that every woman should read.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's easy to read because it is a story, and in the story, even the women that are involved in it, she's making them promise that they're not going to judge themselves harshly. And she's teaching them things, but then she's like, don't use this to beat yourself up. You have to promise you're not going to beat yourself up with this. Right. You're just going to recognize this and move on, as opposed to saying, oh, I screwed up before, which is good, because I think that makes it very approachable. Whereas, if you read both The Surrendered Wife and The Empowered Wife are great books. The Surrendered Wife is a little bit more in your face. It's a little bit more like, look, this is where you're screwing up and this is what you need to fix, which is, it's still good. It's still valid.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a much gentler approach. Whereas I think if a woman was very feminist and had that kind of mindset and she read The Surrendered Wife, she wouldn't make it through the book. She would be like, this is blah. I don't like this. This is bull crap. Right.
Right.
Whereas a woman who came from a very feminist perspective, if she read The Queen's Code, I think she'd make it through the book. I think she would. Yeah. It's gentle enough, and she would start to see, okay, this is why it is a misunderstanding. This is why I think poorly of men. But if I understand men better, then I can actually admire and respect things about men and see how they're actually wonderful people. Right? It's the same thing as like the appreciation that men need to have for women and for femininity. This is the counterpart. Is it teaches women to have an appreciation for men and what they do.
Yeah, I think too that with the surrendered / empowered wife, that it can feel like someone's talking at you.
Yeah.
And that can be kind of like off-putting to women. Like, I think, like you said, it's beneficial, and women should, be able to read something like that and acknowledge that they're doing some of those things and make the changes. Because I do think that's also beneficial for women to be able to take in information that way, because it's not always going to be given to you in a book like The Queen's Code. But The Queen's Code, I feel like, is more well received because you feel like you're a part of the conversation, but you're like a fly on the wall. Or you can even like acknowledge, like you're in a group of women acknowledging their faults and where they went wrong. And so you can feel like safe in that space to do that. Yeah. It's a little weird to put in that perspective, but because I feel like Laura Doyle also does admit where she also did the wrong things, and that still gives you that same sort of like belonging and like, nobody's perfect. But this one, you kind of feel like you're a fly on the wall in a lot of these conversations. And so I feel like that part of it makes it a lot easier to check yourself, because you feel like other people are checking themselves. And so you're like, oh, I should do that too while you're reading the book, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's a great teaching method. I want to write a book for men that's similar in the story format like that, so that a lot of guys that are angry at women that won't listen to any kind of reason could see it from a story, from being a fly on the wall, just like this, and say, oh, okay, I see why women are doing this, or what are they actually feeling and thinking, because it gives a good